Terrific. I did it right. So good morning, everyone. As people are coming in, I think we should begin. We are right at the time, our 8:45 time. My name is Uri Gutfreund. With me is my co-host, John Remsen. John, glad you are with us today. Thank you.
Glad to be here. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Today's topic of Managing Partner University webinar series is a COO right for your firm? And is a fractional COO right for your firm? We have with us as our guest, who we will introduce in a moment, somebody who really knows quite a bit about this topic, has done it both in-house and now on a fractional basis. So Chelsea Green, we're delighted you're here with us, and we're excited to hear your perspective and your words of wisdom today.
Well, thank you. I'm excited. Thank you guys again for having me.
Fantastic. So as I said, this is part of Managing Partner University. We have our webinars every other Monday morning from 8:45 to 9:45 total. 9:30 is our scheduled program, and we go till 9:45 with our questions. Fast-paced, interactive. We bring an expert to talk about a topic. What topic we choose is up to you. All of you know that we're real big on getting feedback from all of our participants. So at the end of today's program, when you close your window, a 3-question survey pops up. What'd you like? What'd you like less? And what would you like to see in the future? So please give us your feedback. We listen. These topics are all around what you've told us you want to hear. We want to keep that up, but you're helping make and continue to make these programs as good as they are. As I said, our next one will be in 2 weeks. And so be on the lookout for those invitations. I want to thank our sponsors as we kick off. Webster Bank, strong regional bank with a big law firm practice, and we like them. If you're considering or looking at your banking, they have all kinds of great services around just law firms, small and mid-sized law firms, which is our niche community, and Precise, which is the financial consultants for law firms. We use them for our surveys. We think they're great. They do all kinds of analytical work for law firms that help make them more profitable. So an important role. As I said, my name is Uri Gutfreund. I'm with Ames Gough. We are a national insurance brokerage specializing in mid-size law firms. So you want to know what's going on with law firms? Ames Gough, we have the answers. Just as a coincidence, this week we just released the 13th annual law firm risk management results. We do an annual survey of all the malpractice insurance claims. It's a claims study across the country. So you'll see this week, it's in today's Law 360, a story about our report. And it's something that you want to get your hands on if you haven't read it already. With me is John Remsen. John.
Hello, good to be with you, Uri. And just got back from New York and New Jersey. Uri and I presented some programs to managing partners up there. And this was among the topics we discussed. Our COOs, the role they play, the value they bring as firms grow and think more as businesses, hiring typically non-lawyer. I'm not wild about the term, but competent professional administration to make sure your firm is running well. And our speaker today is Chelsea Green. And Chelsea, it happens, worked 9 years with a fellow named Darren Klemchuk out of Dallas, who's been coming to Managing Partner conferences. And since then, she's left and started a company. She's the CEO of ING Collaborations. And we're seeing more and more law firms hire COOs, even CEOs, and smaller firms looking to fractional services, marketing, IT, and the COO roles. So Chelsea, we're looking forward to hearing what you have to tell us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And John, 2 weeks ago, you had quite the conference in Atlanta. Thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, we had our annual shindig, and Darren was there, and coincidentally, and this was a topic of conversation. We consistently ask. We'll share a little later about what managing partners believe to be their most important contributions, and we flip it around and where you spending your time. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into the program and do our polling questions and such. But yeah, we had a good conference, and Uri, good to see you in Atlanta.
Thank you, John. Chelsea, as I said, was the COO in-house for about 9 years, Chelsea, and then
Yes.
opened up her consultancy, which we will hear about through the presentation, but we're just delighted that you're here to share your wisdom. You know, often the best consultants are those that did a role in a firm and then want to offer it to different others. So it's just fantastic experience. When we did this program, you were our first choice, and we're glad you accepted. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm excited.
So as I said, when we opened, we do polling questions throughout. So I'd like to open up with our first polling question, which helps us as we talk with our guests today. How many lawyers are at your firm? So come to your computer. Let's see you poll vote, everyone. How many lawyers are at your firm? And Chelsea, this will give you a sense as we go through and your tailor your comments in our discussion of the size firms that are represented today. And yeah, it's diverse. So let's share this. So there you have it. Pretty diverse group. We have our biggest group in that 11 to 30, followed by under 10 lawyers. I know you have quite a following, Chelsea. So that's quite interesting. And the under 10 lawyers, one of our clients I know who had strongly endorsed you is here, and he's less than 10 lawyers, or maybe actually a bit more now, but he is here. And so that's fantastic. Okay, good. So that gives you a sense. And why don't we move to our second poll? Here we go.
And Uri, yeah, you're, is this one you're jumping to me on? We rearranged our deck just before we got started, and we're going to ask from the list below. I think people can select one choice, Uri.
Yes, that's correct.
What's causing you the most sleepless nights? Is it management of people, acquisition, retention of talent, substantive legal issues, your cases and your clients keeping you up, the health of the firm and its profitability and vision for the future? Or, hey, I sleep just fine, thank you very much. So if you would, from the list below, are you awake at night? And if so, what's most pressing? And what are you going to guess, Chelsea? Before you do the reveal, let's ask Chelsea what she thinks keeps managing partners awake most in the nighttime.
I'm going to say one or two. People management or talent is my guess.
You don't think anybody's sleeping like a baby? I predict a big 0 on that one, unless
I don't
someone's
think
being
anyone's
sarcastic.
I don't think there are. If they say that, they're probably not being honest, is my guess. But
hey, Uri, show us what we got.
Yeah. So Chelsea nailed it. Number one.
Hey, but somebody's sleeping.
Yes, somebody is sleeping.
Somebody is sleeping. Wow.
Health through pharmaceuticals, I say. Good health through pharmaceuticals.
Okay, this is interesting. See, but nobody said cases.
No, isn't that interesting? Is that good or bad, Chelsea? And then John?
It's just, I mean, honestly, it's what I expected, because whenever I talk to managing partners, they talk all about the running of the business is the stressful piece. Nobody says, oh my gosh, these cases, because that's generally the easier thing for them, or, of the business. So anyway.
John, what do you think about that? What do you think about the way people...
I agree. I think most managing partners, it's the people side, always something going on there. And I don't hear them talking much about their cases either. But I'm talking to them about the business side of running the firm, and they probably wouldn't share much about their cases either, because I'm not a lawyer.
Fair enough. And then it is a tie here with the health of your business, profitability, and we do hear that, right? Profitability, cash flow, especially in January, cash flow. We hear a lot about that.
And especially with everything going on in the economy, I think that one is even more of a hot button right now. Like, do I have enough cash to weather a storm if there is one? Should I still be growing, or should I pause? I mean, there's a lot of additional questions under the umbrella of the market right now, I think.
Is my bank solvent? That's kept a few managing partners awake at night.
Fair enough.
Moving on.
And Uri, you want me rolling this one too?
Yes, sir.
Which is kind of drilling down a little bit on the operational front. Where are you getting trapped up? HR, the finance stuff, systems, processes, procedures. So from this list of 5, where do you feel you're being sort of bogged down most on the administrative front? A, B, C, D, or E? And folks are voting in.
I see them coming in, so I'm not going to opine.
I know you do. You cheat.
I didn't predict. John, where do you think we're going to see? And then Chelsea, where do you think we're going to see? What is the operation challenge for most of these law firm leaders?
Hey, Chelsea, you're our guest, so you go first.
He punted. Basically, he punted to you, Chelsea.
Yes, I did.
I'm going to say people again. I just think, especially the sizes of these firms, the when it gets to about that size is whenever people are like, oh my gosh, these people headaches. So I'm going to say, I guess I'm going to say either people or HR.
People, all these are interrelated. I'm going to go with operations
Yeah.
and systems, as firms are getting a little more focused on the technology and going to the cloud and remote work accommodations. I'm going to roll with technology here. Okay. All right.
Well, that's why Chelsea's the guest, and John, you're interviewing.
I'm just a hack. I know. Right? What can I say?
Chelsea, you see this a lot. You see this a lot.
Yeah, because it's like I said, especially in this size of firm, it's, when you have 5, 6, 8 people, it's like you can kind of keep the pulse very easy, but
Fair.
You start hiring and layering and, it just becomes a whole new, complexity. And so that's whenever people start going like, oh my gosh, like these people headaches are just driving me crazy. Even if you have good people, I don't even mean, even if there's good people, there's still people problems, which are, growth and development, promotion, succession. I mean, there's a whole list of things. So it's just, the more people, the more complex.
Yep. You nailed it. John?
Yes.
You are up.
Well, the role of a COO, these administrative functions, law firm marketing is a new thing, and LMA, these non-lawyer positions that are coming on in importance, and a COO specifically. Chelsea, why don't you kind of walk us through what you see the role of a law firm COO generally, and then we're going to later on drill down to that fractional COO. So generally, what does a COO do?
So the way I would kind of explain it is the COO is in charge of all of the business aspects of a law firm. So all the, non-substantive legal aspects roll up to the COO, and they're in charge of making sure that, things are running smoothly. They know where the firm's headed. They know how to get there. They're very strategic in their approach of things. And they really work very, very closely with the managing partner or the leadership team, depending on the size of the firm. And so, I would say they're overseeing all of the business aspects of the firm. Is how I would boil it down.
On a very high level.
Yes. Thank you for that clarification, because yes, I would say it's very high level. It's very strategic. It's establishing, helping establish the vision, implementing the vision along with the visionary or managing partner, the structure that's needed to, execute on that vision, the people that are needed. It's all of those high level strategics is kind of what the COO is in charge of.
Talk to us about the leadership structure. You're advising the leadership and you're part of the leadership team. What does that mean? How is that? Give us that sort of structure.
I would say a really important thing is that, if you're going to have a COO, you truly give them a seat at the table. And what I mean by that is, if there's a partner team, if there's a partner meeting, The
Mhm.
COO should be at the partner meeting, even though they're not a partner, they are just as
Right.
much of a key player.
Mhm.
And a lot of what's discussed in that partner meeting is going to fall on the COO's plate to help execute.
Mhm.
So, I would strongly suggest anybody who is thinking about doing this, having a hire as a COO, they be prepared to really give somebody the reins and give them that, authority and empower them, because that's the only way I think it's successful. So, yes, so COO seat at the table, they are advising the managing partner on, whatever it may be, whether it's, like we said, growth plans,
Mhm.
personnel issues, maybe it's partner alignment. That's another thing is you may or may not be surprised at how many firms have issues at the partner level as far as accountability and alignment, things like that. So COO can play a very big role there as well. So yes, advisory to that team and just really being a counterpart there, I think is very important.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I think it's also the COO's job to, provide visibility on how the firm's doing. So, they establish KPIs for the firm. They have a plan for, implementing them, getting the data regularly, and then actually saying, okay, well, what does this mean and what do we do with it? It's great that this number is up or down, but what does that do for me? Like, what does that actually mean? And then the COO says, well, this means we need to be extracting more billables from our legal team, or this means we need to work on our ARs because our cash flow is really poor. And, or this means we need to fix this process that's broken because that'll allow us to churn out bills quicker, or, any number of things. But they should be able to give you a very high level handful of metrics that can help you run your firm. And then, actually advise you on what to do with it when one or more numbers is telling you something is off.
Chelsea, I've always thought of it as the COO is supposed to tell you which KPIs you should watch, not the managing partner should not be. It's not in their wheelhouse. It's not why they went to law school. It's not necessarily their expertise, but it's the COO who comes to the management team and says, based on where we're at, these are the KPIs we should track, and then help the team execute on them. But you're coming up with, that role is coming up with how to measure. Do you see it that way?
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. Yes, they should be, because, and I mean, it may ebb and flow, right? Like sometimes you may be tracking a certain KPI because it's particularly important to you at the moment, and eventually it becomes a non-issue, or, something else becomes more pressing. But yes, the COO should be identifying the, like I said, the handful of metrics that are very, very important. And then they should have a mechanism for drilling down further to figure out where an issue lies, if there is one. And they should be, as I said, advising the managing partner or the leadership team on what the metrics mean, what to do with them, how that actually shapes their decision making. It's, I think a lot of people nowadays are like, oh, I've got these pretty KPIs. Okay, but what do you do with them? What do you, how is it actually shaping your business or helping you make decisions?
Understood.
Sorry, I know that was a little bit of a tangent, but
that's all
I
right.
think that's a very big role of a COO. And, going back to our poll, I think, a big role of a COO is to help you sleep at night, just purely because you have a better comfort level on the business. So even if there are issues, what they are. It's not like, you're worried about what you don't know, if that makes sense. You know what's on the radar, and you feel like you have a plan for tackling it, as opposed to just like, oh, I hope we have enough money to pay our bills this month.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea, you mentioned earlier how important it is to empower this position. And, I'll get in there working with a law firm and it becomes apparent this is kind of a weak link, and a COO. And empowering this person with decision-making authorities and backing them up. You know how it is. Lawyers will do the end run to the managing partner, their buddy on the executive committee, and assert their authorities. And often that's administrator COO is undermined. And I think it's so important to back that administrator, support the decisions, good frequent communication between the managing partner or CEO and the COO. And I see that's often lacking. They don't communicate enough. They're not on the same page,
No,
and
absolutely.
that's
I mean,
important.
I was very lucky. Like you said, the firm I was at for so long, they set me up for success on day one that,
Yeah.
I had full backing of the managing partner and the leadership team. And, there were times I was working on issues that were, very partner level, whether it was a partner exit or a partner performance issue, even that, a lot of firm administrators or COOs wouldn't be allowed to touch anything in
Yep.
that realm. And I think it's very important, again, that this person is empowered in that way, because that's really the only way you're going to get the full benefit of, what they can provide for you, is if you really set them up to be your counterpart and, act on your behalf, obviously, like, within reason, because you're going to be collaborating with them and communicating with them nonstop. And so, they need to feel like they really can execute based off of that.
So if we were to draw up an org chart with a COO, who's reporting up to that COO? Are all, marketing, finance, HR, all these people, as you see it, direct report to the COO, who has the ability to hire, fire these folks?
Literally, I would argue everybody in the firm except for the managing partner is underneath that. I mean, legal team, everybody. And so, and it can be, different roles, people are reporting in different ways. So, there could be a partner reporting to the COO when it comes to operational items. They're not reporting to them when it comes to case related things. You know what I mean? There's different roles reporting in different ways, but yeah, I would argue it's managing partner and, partner team and COO, and then the whole organization. And I think that's, again, the only way to fully get the benefits of, what a COO can actually do for you. And yes, it can be tricky, right? Because, oh my gosh, we have a non-lawyer in this very authoritative box up here.
Yep.
How's that sold to the firm? And I would just say very carefully, right? Because the way I think it has to be pitched is that, this is a legal professional. This is an executive. It's an executive just like a partner is. But, their profession happens to be operations and, the strategics of the firm. So, that is what I think it needs to be explained. That's the way I think it needs to be explained to an organization is this is like hiring a partner. This is like hiring an executive for the firm. And this is the seat that they occupy. And, doesn't matter lawyer or non-lawyer. It's just a different type of professional, in my opinion.
My first firm in the mid 80s that I worked with, I was their in-house marketer when firms started marketing. His title was CEO. And he held lawyers accountable, partners accountable. If they didn't get time in, didn't get bills out, behaved in a disruptive manner, he cracked the whip. And many of the lawyers didn't like giving this non-lawyer so much authority and responsibility. But boy, he kept them on point, on task, made them a boatload of money. And, it's more and more firms are recognizing the important contributions the nons can bring to the firm. Yeah, the nons. What do we know? We know Chelsea, a lot if you let us.
Chelsea, if you had to prioritize the COO's best use of their role, and we're getting questions, by the way, keep putting the questions in the Q&A. We'll work them into the conversation. Chelsea, as you prioritize and either you're hiring your first COO or you're bringing a fractional COO, what would you say are prioritizing? Obviously, every firm has their house on fire, and they'll deal with that issue. But let's say firms are sort of okay in HR, they're okay in finance, accounting, market. Where do you see the best bang for your buck? What do you do on day one?
I would make sure that your structure and your roles and everything are right for the firm. So, and that's a lot of what I end up doing on day one for my clients is, and they may not come to me saying, I want you to do this, but as we talk through issues or, growth plans, it's, you have to understand where you are and then where you're headed. And so, starting off with like, yeah, what does it look like right now? What is the reporting structure? Who's in what,
Yes.
who's doing what role? What gaps are there? Because, if we're going to grow, we need to know which boxes are empty, or, which new boxes are going to come about. So I would say, and then also, to the extent, like I mentioned, there are any partner alignment issues, that's another thing that I deal with a lot, is just, especially with smaller firms, right? Everyone wears a bunch of different hats. And then a lot of times that happens at the partner level too, where everyone's doing a little bit of everything, and it's just kind of a mess. And so, yeah, I would say getting that, I call it accountability chart, an org chart, but it's with accountability behind it, is kind of the idea. I would say that's a great place to start, making sure your structure is right, everybody's in the right seats, you have the right roles outlined. And then I would say the next place would be some sort of metrics, is just looking at your key metrics. If you have those, or, developing those, those would be the two probably high level places I would suggest anyone start.
Fantastic. Three tips you said: structure, org, and accountability. Number 2, partner alignment. Where are we lacking? Where do we need? And then metrics. What metrics are we going to use? And now, like you said, you don't necessarily get asked to do that, but now let's tackle our biggest problems, because we've had that structure in place. Fantastic advice.
Right. And I would add one quick thing to the accountability or structure piece, is understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the team members you have. Whether there's a personality survey that I like to use, it's called Culture Index. But if you employ something like that, or you don't, just, understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your team members, so you can make sure they're in the right positions as you're, again, ideally building things out, backfilling spaces, things like that. Just making sure you're aligning those with people's strengths.
To support this, we do a survey every other year, and did just our 2020, 182 managing partners, mid-sized firms. And we asked the question, have you brought more formality to your firm's governance in the past 5 years? 40% say yes. And it's a lot of the things we're talking about: org chart, job descriptions, just clear identification of roles and responsibilities, training for our people.
That's great.
This is all moving toward, we're running a business, and we need to think and act more as businesses, and appreciate the roles of administration and all that stuff.
We're going to launch our 4th poll, and I got this one. So I know the health of my firm. This is the little Likert scale. Strongly agree, not sure, disagree, strongly disagree, which is, I know the health of my firm, financially, culturally, position in the market. I know where we stand. So do you strongly agree? Agree. Not sure. No way. Do not. Or I strongly disagree. We are all over the place. So do you know the health of your firm? Now, I don't want to give it away too much, but John, what do you think people are going to say?
They agree with that statement, I think.
Because?
They have a pretty good handle on it. So I would think the number 2 choice is going to be the popular answer.
And you think so too? And then now here's a hard question. John, are they telling the truth?
Yeah, I think they're telling the truth. I think most could get a clearer, perspective on the health and culture of the firm. I think they're telling the truth. Yeah.
Where do you see the gap, Chelsea? You're both right, 100%. Look at that. Strongly agree. But I think managing partners are optimistic, but Chelsea, where are they missing?
Well, this is interesting because they're saying they agree or strongly agree, but one of the things they were most worried about at night, I think it was like 40%, it was about the firm metrics and profitability. So maybe they know the health, but
that might be the problem though, Chelsea. Right. They know.
Maybe.
that our profitability's going down, and
fair. We didn't say
we're getting talent recruited away from us, and so
I mean, my guess is it is something like that, because it is interesting when you pull those two questions together. Yeah, I think it's probably, like you guys are saying, that people have a general idea. Could it be better, or are there maybe a couple blind spots, that they could know more about? Maybe, but like, yeah, these are probably, and I mean, the fact that they're part of your forum and all of that probably says that they're very well in tune already.
They
We have
probably
a comment.
think more about this stuff than the average managing partner.
Exactly.
They're coming to our stuff. They want to learn how to be more effective in the roles. And, Chelsea, believe it or not, some managing partners listen to what Uri and I advise. It's an amazing thing. And they're doing pretty well. The ones that take it and implement some of what we dispense.
Moving on.
Moving right along.
Poll, and this is our last polling question of today. John, this is yours.
Oh yeah. Uri, I can't. We did a little last minute change-o on this puppy. So let's talk about vision. And the vision of the firm. We're a big proponent of where are we going 5 years, our size, our practice niches, our industry focus, and geographic footprint, trying to get everybody on the same page, rowing in the same direction. So Uri put up our poll.
Yep, I did.
Okay.
So vote if you agree.
So you have a clear vision for your firm, its future, and how you're getting where you want to go.
Now, this is interesting, and I'll share this result here. So we see quite a few of you are not sure of that clear vision of the future. Chelsea, does that surprise you?
Kind of. Let's see. Maybe they have a clear vision. They're not sure how to get there.
Okay.
Maybe that's, since we didn't, let them take those two pieces apart. Maybe. Or maybe they feel like they have a clear vision. They're not sure if everyone else understands the vision that they have.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a common thing too, of a lot of partners know in their head where they want to be. But have we really communicated that to everyone at the firm, and, what their role is and helping us get there? I think that's step 2, right? And a lot of times we never get there because we're so in the day-to-day that, it just doesn't happen.
And Uri, I think this speaks to the need of a firm strategic plan, something in writing that sets forth this vision. And Chelsea, this is another question we ask for years and years and years. Does your firm have a written firm-wide strategic plan? And about 50% of the firms of the size here today don't. Everyone kind of does their own thing, and we're seeing more and more focus on future, but so many mid-sized firms are just kind of, plodding along, and everybody does their own thing, and so many opportunities, I think, here to tighten things up, get a vision, get folks rowing in the same direction.
And I know, Chelsea, you're going to walk us through with how people can determine if they need a CO, what that can do. But I just have a quick question on what John was saying. How often do you find small, mid-sized firms have a strategic plan? And then how often are you part of that process to help them with that, or to help them realize they need one? I mean, how often does that come up in your business, Chelsea?
I mean, in my world, I would say almost every client, I work with them on either establishing it or refining it. Because I would say majority of the clients that I work with they want that, and like I said, they may have some ideas towards it, but it's a lot of what I do with my clients is getting that kind of sorted out and, like you said, formalized. So yeah, I think like you said, the people that are coming to me are interested in it. They want it. They just maybe need a little bit of help extracting those things out and formalizing it. So but it's definitely a lot of what I see for sure.
John, and your data is more doing it, right?
Slowly but surely. When I started asking this question 15, 20 years ago, 40% of mid-sized firms claim to have a written firm-wide strategic plan. And then we kind of go the step further. How you doing on the implementation side? because planning without
Right.
implementation, we're missing opportunities. And is it making a difference? Is it impacting your firm's cohesiveness, profitability, and sustainability? And overwhelmingly, firms that go through a strategic planning exercise and create this vision, getting everybody, sharing the vision, report it's a very, very beneficial exercise to improve our profitability and all those good things. So I think it's compelling. Why don't more firms do this? Why still do half of mid-sized firms not have a firm-wide strategic plan? We don't need
Because
one.
who would,
We've never had one before. It'll surface unpleasant errors or things that we sweep under the rug. It costs money. It takes time. We don't know how to do it. So bringing in an outsider like yourself, we do this as well. Uri, I'm sure you get involved in these kinds of things. I think can be really important to get.
I think
the
it's
firm.
sometimes it's just about being intentional enough to do it. Like, they have the ideas,
Absolutely.
but sitting down, there's so many distractions, or not distractions maybe isn't the right word, but priorities that they have to tend to. But,
Yep.
Actually formalizing it and saying, I'm going to work with this person to do this, I think is just by itself, helpful to get it done. And, just being that intentional about it. Because I think in the day-to-day, it's like, yeah, I want that, but who's going to do it? Am I going to, push off my client to write the strategic plan of the firm? Probably not. Is my firm administrator going to do it? Is my, whoever, you go through the list. But anyway, I think just being intentional is a big piece.
No doubt. I think COVID has brought a little more focus to this as we're coming out of COVID, resetting, refocusing attention to the future. I'm certainly sensing that, Uri, in our programs like this and the conferences we do, the whole merger and acquisition conversation, that's interesting. And where does your firm stand on being acquired or going out and bringing in laterals or acquiring smaller firms and being intentional, less opportunistic and more intentional.
Interesting.
All right, you're up.
So Chelsea, walk us through a little bit. You have 30 managing partners tuning in today. They want to know, how do I determine if I need a COO? I've heard this concept. I've heard about it. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the firm. They have some type of infrastructure. What is the typical client who, either from a perspective of hiring a full-time or a fractional, what are some of the issues that sort of percolate that you say, these are the things we see in commonality?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one to kick things off is just size or complexity.
Okay.
When you grow from, a solo to a, like I alluded to earlier, when it's, under 10 or something like that, 10 people in your organization, it's generally usually manageable. You don't have to have a lot of processes.
Okay.
It just runs fairly simply, if that makes sense. But as you start adding on people and roles and all of that, it just grows in complexity. And so what I see of people is where they've grown to where they don't feel like they have as great of a handle on it personally. Like, I don't have my pulse on what's happening anymore, because I've grown to the point that, I can't manage it all, just me, with my staff. And so that's number one, is just size, complexity, size. And yeah, I think the feelings have to do with, I don't feel like I have a good handle on this anymore, or our processes we had before are not working now because, again, size, complexity, it's become an issue. Our systems aren't quite working. We were using Excel, and, now we need something more robust, or we were, our bookkeeper was also our marketing person, was also our client services person. Now we need an intake person separate, just all those, I call them kind of pain points, just little pain points start to creep up. And once there become, enough of them that you just kind of start feeling, okay, I really need to get a better handle on this, is usually what I would say starts the conversation.
Yeah, Chelsea, I know we're going to walk through in a minute the difference between what some people call a firm administrator, executive director, compared to a COO in a minute. And what, just to put a pin in this is bigger picture. I'm not sure where my business is heading. This is not, I'm not sure why we're using that kind of paper versus that paper. This is strategically, I'm not sure our ship is moving in the right direction, right?
Yes. I mean, there could be little small things
Mhm.
adding to the mix as well. But yes, I'm talking more like, I don't have a handle on, my finances anymore. I don't feel like I have, a good handle on our profitability or how much run rate we have.
Mhm.
I don't feel like I know who to hire next, or, how to develop my employees, or, this team isn't getting along well. How do I fix that? There's like, or, I'm not getting along with my partners. Like, we've grown, we have different ideas about what we want to do next, and we're not on the same page about it. So there becomes these little clashes or pockets of either inefficiency or, yeah, for lack of a better word, just kind of pain, that kind of creep up. And
It's
that's, like I
interesting.
said, usually whenever people are reaching out to me or talking about hiring a COO, they're looking for somebody to like give them kind of that peace of mind again of, okay,
Mhm.
I know my business is run well. It's profitable. We have KPIs in place. The partner team is aligned. I know where we're headed strategically with our vision and our plan, our business plan. So they're looking for somebody to kind of bring it back together again. Does that kind of make sense?
I'm hearing a lot of structure. Like you were saying, that's day
Yes.
one. I'm hearing
Yep.
structure. I'm hearing bottlenecks. I'm hearing evaluating the current team. Are these the right people in the right seats? Stuff that
Yes.
you sort of need either through a complexity or a merger, even it could be a post-merger where pieces don't fit the way they used to, and you want to step back and have an advisor who
Well,
helps reship it. John, is that right?
Uri, and at our keynote a couple of weeks ago, I put up a slide of the weeds.
Yeah.
And if you as a managing partner feel that you've gotten bogged down in the weeds,
Yes.
it's time to consider hiring a COO. And I alluded to this, but I'm looking at the actual results that we presented. And we asked the managing partners your most important contributions in the leadership role. Managing partner, managing shareholder. What's interesting, we're starting to see more titles like president, chairman, CEO. I think managing is different than leadership. And the managing partner should be leading, big picture, vision. Most important contributions. 1, focusing my firm on long-term strategic objectives. Lawyers tend to focus on today's billable hours. That's how they get compensated. And the long-term strategy, just as we've been talking about, tends to fade from our list of priorities. Change agent, number 2. And we all know lawyers don't like change, don't like risk. Building consensus, number 3. Among people who love autonomy, building consensus among shareholders. And then we flip it. Where do you spend your time? Again and again, same list of 8, 10 priorities, day-to-day admin. And if you're a managing partner getting bogged down in day-to-day admin, it's time to pull yourself out of the weeds and bring on a COO or something similar.
And
so you can focus on the big picture stuff and get that day-to-day off the plate.
That's exactly right. And, one of the things I had in my slides was like, I hear a lot of managing partners who say like, well, only I can do this. So this has to be me,
Right.
this has to be me. I have to do X, Y, Z. It's like, yes, it has to be you because you don't have a counterpart to you. But imagine if you did, if you actually had, and I'm not talking about substantive legal, obviously, but if you actually had a counterpart to you on the business, it wouldn't have to be you doing all of those things. So I think sometimes managing partners, they sometimes don't think big enough about what sort of a role, they could bring on. And I think, again, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but I think a lot of times people are thinking more day-to-day management, like more firm administration wise, and not so much, they're not thinking big enough as far as, a actual executive strategic leader, that could help me set the vision, all things like that. So I think they're thinking this can only be me. And I'm challenging, saying, you just maybe need, another you that's an actual, executive counterpart to you, if that makes sense.
Well, often we're dealing with first generation firms where the founder is still large and in charge and building up 40 lawyers, 50 lawyers, 60 lawyers. And it's hard for them to let go. It really is emotionally. This is the baby, and for me to let go and trust someone else, it's hard. A lot of personalities to let things go.
I want to move on to the next slide, but before I do this, I have a question that came from the audience, and feel free to put your questions. We've worked many of them into the conversation. You can keep putting them into the questions. I am monitoring that. Put it in the questions, and I will put them to our panel. The question was, and we're going to talk in a minute about COO versus the firm administrator. You've alluded to it, Chelsea, and we'll go through some of these. I think that'll sort of highlight the differences, the strategic versus the day-to-day. But my question is, or the question is that came through, which is, can you promote, who makes up a COO? Well, they didn't go to COO school.
Right.
Could they be, the specific person asked, could they be a really great paralegal that you see talent in? What are some of the qualities that someone would need to be a COO, both to Chelsea and then to John?
So funny enough, I started my legal career as a paralegal. So,
okay.
Or actually not even a paralegal, a legal assistant. I didn't have a certification. So yes, you can promote a legal assistant to a COO eventually. So yes, absolutely. These people can be someone you already have on staff. I would just say, the sort of qualities you need to look for are people who, let's see, first of all, I would say very good collaborators, because a lot of this role has to do with building consensus, collaboration, alignment, as we've talked about. They need to be able to, execute, but also be able to be very big picture and strategic. And what I mean by that is, and again, as we talk through some of these differences, it'll come to light as well. But there's a difference between the day-to-day, are there enough staple, paper clips in the stash, to get us through the week? That's, that has its place, and that's very important, but that's one piece. And then there is, is our office space going to be big enough for us in the next 5 years? And, what's the next hire that we need to make? And so they need to be able to think very strategically, analytically, and creatively. Frankly, I think, being able to kind of understand the vision that a partner might have, and then figure out how to put a plan in place to execute that. And I don't think that is, I don't think that's a talent, that necessarily everyone has. It's it's kind of a unique sort of position, if that makes sense. So yes, they can absolutely be in your organization. I just think there's certain things you would want to look for as to whether they, would make the right fit. And frankly, I think one of the very, very biggest things is, do you trust them? Like, the number one thing I think for a managing partner and a COO is a very close, tight-knit relationship that you 100% trust this person, their decision-making abilities. Will people respect them? Because again, when we talk about the empowerment and authority this person needs to have, it needs to be someone that people will follow. Will people follow them? And if they will, and if you, to a certain extent, are okay with, a COO often has to kind of manage up to the managing partner. They're advising them, they're telling them sometimes the hard truths about things. The managing partner may not always want to hear some of the, feedback that this person might have that's valuable. So again, I think very, very important is the rapport between the COO and the managing partner.
I agree 100%. And I think if you're going to take this step, really assess if your partners are ready. Are they, you might be bought into it as the managing partner, But, you've got 14 other equity partners with opinions who are owners of the firm along with you. Are they ready to give the authorities, the responsibilities to typically a non-lawyer to, hold them accountable? And I've worked with firms, Chelsea, I'm sure you have too. And they say, yeah, of course we're ready. We want someone who's going to come whip us into shape and get us focused strategically and hold us accountable to all this good stuff we want to do. They say, and we got a job description that reflects those authorities. But when this person arrives on the scene, they're not ready. They're not ready to have a non-lawyer at that level. So really, if you're going to make this decision, get your partner sold on to it, and make sure your firm is ready.
And John, because I know you recruit COOs and done your fair share occasionally, how hard is it to promote within? What's that challenge?
Oh, that's, often I just did one, Chelsea, with a firm out in California, and one of the candidates internal, the CFO, thought he was qualified to be the COO, but they weren't interested in his candidacy at all. And there was some rift there. And they brought in a candidate. It was a protracted search. She's assimilated very, very well. But for them, they decided that among the existing directors of the firm, not one had the confidence, the skill set to be effective in the role. So they went outside and hired someone from a branch office managing partner who wanted the principal administrator role. There are plenty of talented people out there as firms merge and consolidate. There are very, very capable, experienced law firm COOs, executive directors out there, well-equipped, well-experienced, got that law firm experience. Lawyers are a tough bunch to work with. And if you haven't worked with them before, it can be tough. So, most of the firms I work with want that law firm experience on the resume, and they're looking for a designation called CLM, Certified Legal Manager, which carries weight to it. I was going to suggest, if people are interested in learning more, ALA, Association of Legal Administrators, alanet.org. They have a whole section there with some tools and things to help you assess as a firm what you might be ready for. And they run a job bank. So you can go there and see who in New York, New Jersey is recruiting, the positions, the job descriptions, the compensation. And for a lot of mid-sized firms, we're looking at $350, $400, $500,000 a year positions. And we're not going to dare pay a non-lawyer more than our lowest paid equity partner. But that's the price tag on talented, experienced law firm COOs. It's not cheap. And hence the fractional COO concept makes a lot of sense for smaller mid-sized firms who want this, but can't afford, full-time person to take on this the role.
Chelsea,
so that's a good setup for you, Chelsea.
Chelsea's given us this good list. Chelsea, you've given us this good list. You've given us this good list, Chelsea. You want to highlight 2 or 3, and then we'll go on to our last slide.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to illustrate, I feel like sometimes the titles are, thrown around, and it's unclear kind of, what each position could do. And I just kind of wanted to highlight again more of the strategic position of the COO. And I would think of it more as the COO is driving things. They are, pushing things forward. They are establishing, developing, forward thinking. The firm administrator is supporting, executing, tracking, implementing. Those are just some adjectives or verbs, I guess, to kind of distinguish a little bit between the two. Both have very important roles, but the combination of the two, I would say, can be extremely powerful. If you have a firm administrator that's very strong on staff, and then what I would call, I kind of just say you sprinkle a little bit of the COO role on top, more of the strategics and working with the partner and the leadership team. for the big picture thinking, it can be a very great combination for firms to, propel them forward.
Yeah, and I think when we were talking for our prep today, sometimes, in fact, quite often, this COO is added after there has been a firm administrator for a long time, Chelsea, right?
Yes, I would say a lot of the times the firms that I work with have somebody in the firm administration role, likely full time. And then, me as a fractional COO, again, is kind of seen as an advisory role or a resource for that team. So kind of a liaison between the partner and the partner team and the firm administrator who's implementing and, executing on a day-to-day basis. So that's definitely one way it can look. And I see that quite often.
Fantastic. And then when you get approached for a fractional, I mean, tell us about how this works, what circumstances people will be using a fractional COO to figure out if that works for them.
I think it's a lot like John said, which is, you decide that you need a COO in general, you've gotten big enough, all the other things we've already talked about. You think you want to add some more structure to your organization, but maybe you're not ready to make a full-time hire or don't have the overhead in place to do a full-time hire. A fractional situation can work perfectly because you're, it's exactly like it sounds. You're getting a fraction of that professional's time dedicated to you and your firm. And, they can work with you, very flexible arrangements. And so, I have some arrangements that are more integrated. One of my clients that's actually on the webinar this morning, I play a very integrated role with their firm where, it's very visible. I have people that report to me. I'm, very integrated part of their team. And then I have other firms that are more what I would call advisory roles, less integrated, where I serve more of a back sort of role, advising, that leadership team on decisions and issues and structure and those things. And then they use their team internally more so to implement. So a lot of different ways to do it. And, obviously it's tailored all to the client's needs and kind of where they're trying to go. And then, at the very, go ahead.
Do you see it as more sort of a temporary role for a year or two, or is this kind of a long-term deal? As a fractional COO, are you there for a while?
Both. I mean, I have some that bring me in for a particular project or an issue that's popped up and they want some guidance, along the way, and we work through that. And then maybe there's one or two things after that, and then it kind of fades off. Then I have other clients that, have been, been with me for most of the time that I've had my company and for the foreseeable future. So they, for a couple of my clients, it's become where, it's like visibly looks the same as, a full-time COO. So to the external world or, others, it would just look like I'm on staff. So again, can be very integrated. And in those cases, they're actually making plans based on having me for the foreseeable future. And, this box is occupied by Chelsea, if that makes sense. And then for other
is
firms,
this a
it's
virtual
advisory
type of relationship, Chelsea, in most cases? Do you do your work
Generally,
virtually or you go on site and have a private office?
I've had, a little of both. Most of it's virtual. And then, I do have some clients that are not in Texas. And so that's, obviously almost entirely virtual. And then for some of my Dallas clients, I go to their office, once a week or once every couple weeks. And I have some standing meetings with them or meet with employees and things of that nature. So it can look every which way. For me, it's a lot of virtual and then some on-site time. I think it is important to, have some face-to-face collaboration when when it's possible. That works. We've had some of our best sessions, on site, brainstorming with a whiteboard and, really getting into some of the nitty-gritty stuff. That's where I have some of my most fun.
So once you come on with a firm and it's going to be a while, you get an email address, you get a business card, and to the outside world, you're presented as the COO.
Yes.
And you really do get embedded. And is it
Yes.
an employee? I guess you retain a consulting,
Yeah,
independent contractor relationship.
I still do it through my company as an independent contractor. But yes, I have an email address with the firm. I'm on like their Teams channel, or their Teams
Gotcha.
platform, and we'll chat back and forth through that. So it is very much like the employee relationship, just on a fractional basis.
Gotcha.
Um,
Interesting stuff, Chelsea. And I think we're going to see more and more of it, as we look to the future.
We have come to the end of our time. We could keep going, but I do want to respect everyone's time. Our program will end shortly. Thank you, John. Thank you, Chelsea. This has been
Thank you, Chelsea.
very
Thank you,
interesting. Really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Just as a reminder, today's program, the slides and recording will come to you. When you close today's webinar, you'll get a 3-question survey. Please give us your feedback. We really listen. These topics, how we make these programs get better based on your feedback. So thank you, everyone. Good to see everyone. Have a great week. And so long. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you guys
Thanks,
so much.
Chelsea.
I really enjoyed it. Bye.
Thanks, Uri. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.